everyone, and welcome back to Claim Your Potential, the Empowerment Podcast. I'm your host, Sofie, and for this episode, we have a special guest here with us to discuss resilience road mapping to feeling better and preserving emotional well-being. She is a resilience coach and workplace mental health strategist. She's also a TEDx speaker and a published author of a memoir entitled Breaking Into My Life. She spent years working to eradicate the mental health stigma within her own workplace by elevating empathy and compassion, causing more open conversations, and leading real change in how mental illness is understood. She was instrumental in building the largest and fastest growing employee mental health employee resource group while at her Fortune 500 company. Today, she partners with innovative organizations to recenter their staff through her powerful people leader resilience programs that provide tangible daily strategies to preserve well-being. She believes that every organization can have a culture of compassion, and her signature resilience workshop has made a positive impact on thousands of employees throughout COVID-19. Please welcome Michelle E. Dickinson. Thank you so much for being with us today, Michelle.
Thank you so much for having me and for the invitation, Sofie.
Thank you for coming on. And going into a little bit of your expertise, you have many, but one being this creation of the resilience roadmap. And so, what is your resilience roadmap model? How does it work?
Yeah, it's very simple, but yet it's not easy to do. And so the resilience roadmap is really all about small daily micro changes that we can make in our day to day lifestyle that can help us feel better and boost our resilience. So many people that I coach sort of ignore their well being until they hit a point where they're about to burn out or they're just exhausted. And then they give their self care attention, right? How many people take, the spa day for the birthday or the massage for the birthday, or they sort of wait for that vacation in 3 months. My strategy with the resilience roadmap is to have folks realize they can be filling their bucket every single day so they don't wait until a point where they're about to burn out. So it's a series of small steps based on what individuals prefer to do, what they like to do, and what they know helps them feel better.
And what are some of these steps that we can take to build resilience?
When I work with people, so like my one-on-one resilience coaching clients, it's really about mindset. I'd say the first thing that I'm focusing on is on mindset. And it's also around, how do you start your day? Something as simple as how do you start your day? Are you waking up and literally falling into your day? A lot of people, they stay in bed until the last moment, they hit snooze, and then they're at the races, right? They're off and they're running and they got to get everything done before they can get out the door or start their day. My whole approach is, what if you gave yourself 15 minutes every morning just for yourself? Now, whatever that looks like is going to be unique to you. But for me, it's making sure that I practice gratitude. It's making sure that I sit a few moments in meditation and moving my body. These are things that I know are going to help me feel good. And when I sit down behind my desk to start my job, I've already given something to myself before I give to other people.
And why is it important that we build resilience? What are we building resilience to?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, life is complicated. We are experiencing different challenges in our life. COVID was a perfect example of really being pushed to our limits with everything that we had to deal with. So resilience is really being in control and feeling like you have the tools and the strategies to help yourself, and you're not at the effects of your life. In my opinion, resilience is really about, regardless of whatever comes your way, you're in the cockpit of your life and you know how to navigate it. You can figure it out, and your mindset isn't such that you're already disempowered or defeated before you even navigate that challenge. So it has so much to do with mindset and so much to do with the ongoing nourishing of your emotional well-being.
And when we talk about emotional well-being, what does that look like? Or best case scenario, how can we be emotionally well?
Yeah, and this is something I really want to stress, because so many of us wake up in the morning and we are aware of, like a physical body part that's calling out for attention, if you will. If you work out at the gym the day before and you maybe you moved, maybe you slept wrong, your body physically will tell you if it needs attention. But so often we step over how we're feeling mentally and emotionally, and we just rush into our day. So, one of the things I always recommend to folks, whether they're in my workshop or my one on one coaching, is get present to how you're feeling every morning. And when I say how you're feeling, it's also mentally and emotionally. If you are feeling low or sad or anxious or frustrated, acknowledge that emotion, recognize how you're feeling, and lean into what you know to do to help yourself feel better so that you don't feel worse. The challenge when we don't address how we're feeling is we quickly start to feel even worse. So if we can just, the little exercise of getting present. So, how am I feeling this morning? Am I feeling okay? Am I feeling a little off? Well, maybe I need to call my girlfriend, or maybe I need to go and have a cup of coffee, with my best friend, or get that run in at lunchtime to help myself. We all know what helps us feel better. We just need to do a better job of getting present to how we're doing and then lean into those things that help us feel better.
A lot of this, from my understanding, has stemmed from personal experience. And so, what has your road been to becoming more resilient, to making sure that you are assessing your emotional well being and putting yourself in environments that foster and have a culture of compassion?
Yeah, I would not be able to do this work if I didn't live through some of the most challenging experiences, and I have no hesitation in sharing those, because I think people need to realize that, when someone can get to the other side of a challenging situation, they represent hope for them if they're in that space. So for me, my company is called Trifecta Mental Health because I have three lenses on mental health because of my experience. So first of all, a very intimate experience was growing up with my mom, who was bipolar, and seeing what that was like for her, and supporting her and loving her in the face of that. Very challenging upbringing, but taught me deep compassion for those struggling. And then in my corporate career, I helped to lead the mental health employee resource group at my former Fortune 500 company, where we were shifting cultures in the workplace. We were actually, creating steps that really helped employees feel connected to one another, and less ashamed of any struggle they might have with depression or anxiety. And then a few years ago, going through a divorce, I was diagnosed with depression for the first time. So I had to figure out what was I going to do? How was I going to deal with that? Put myself through clinical care, got the support that I needed. And, from all those experiences, plus a lot of self discovery work that I put myself through with Landmark and Tony Robbins, I learned strategies to help myself and preserve my mental health. And I've been in the entrepreneurial space for 2 years, and that is in and of itself an emotional roller coaster of highs and lows. So I really personally am leaning into the things that I teach every day to preserve my health and keep myself in a good headspace. This work is deeply personal to me, and I'm doing the work every day, as I'm helping my clients.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think that that's something that a lot of people don't necessarily think about when it comes to, the people that are hosting podcasts or the people that are running mental health programs or the people that are providing resilience coaching or all these different areas. I think a lot of time people forget that most of us have gone through what we're trying to teach others. Most of us have been in that powerless situation of, oh my gosh, I don't know how to go on. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I feel powerless. And so I want to thank you for sharing that, because you never know the best way to teach until you've been through it and you go, wait a second, I should be teaching people how to do this because this was never told to me, or this was monumentally life changing for me. And I wish that other people knew this.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. I mean, I wish I had someone to help me when I was going through it. And that's sort of why I'm so passionate about this, because I think a lot of people become like the frog in the water, right? The temperature just keeps getting turned up, and before they know it, they're boiling. And I don't want people to reach that point. I want them to realize I have the control to take back. I have things that I could be doing to nourish myself. I don't have to hit a tipping point. I don't have to hit burnout before I address, what's going on. And the suffering aspect has always been something that I was really keen to help prevent. I really hate the thought of people suffering in silence. So yeah, this work is really personal and so deeply fulfilling. I love that I get to help people and support them.
I absolutely agree. And I liked what you said about, not wanting people to get to that burnout stage, because it seems like a lot of the time that's when many people, when they start to realize something is wrong, when it's almost too late, when they've gotten to that burnout stage, when those negative feelings are so overwhelming that it's hard, it's impossible to ignore them. And do you have any advice
Yeah.
for our listeners on some of these negative emotions early on, rather than waiting until they are at that burnout stage or just at a monumental level to address?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, one of the things I do when I meet with any of my one on one resilience clients is I do a resilience audit. So we're really looking at every aspect of their life to sort of see what are their practices, what's their mindset. We do like a deep dive together, and then we talk that through, and then you know, there's some recommendations, there's some realizations of things that they can do. Fundamentally, I think we need to take a step back and say, what's our level of joy? It all comes down to, are we living a joyful life? Do we feel like we have joy in our life? And so, what I like to ask folks is like, remember a time in your life when you felt like the most joy in your life, right? And I get them to reflect on that. And then I say, well, if you were to rate that, like scale 1 to 5, what would you say it was? Okay, great. Now, what is your current level of joy? And rate that. And if there's a disparity, I then go back and say, well, what was going on in your life when you had the most joy? What were those feelings like? What was going on? You can achieve that level of joy, but oftentimes we settle for what we know because we're so busy, and it's like, oh well, that's not important. I have to deal with what's at hand. But fundamentally, if you take a pause and reflect, like, am I experiencing the level of joy I know is possible for me? And if the answer is no, then it's an opportunity for you to make some course corrections before you start feeling, the dreaded burnout, or, depression or anxiety. So I just like to take it real simple and say, what is your current level of joy?
I love that. I think that that's something that we don't think about truly. Thinking back at
Yeah.
least my own struggles with mental wellness, I never put two and two together to look at, hey, what was going on when I was happy and what
Yeah.
has changed that has now put me in this state of unhappiness. And so I like that, it's boiling down to the very simple of, when were you happy? Okay, how do you feel now? And then what was going on in your life at that time? And then seeing if we can replicate that to where you can get back to that
Yeah.
that level of happiness.
And most of the time, Sofie, it's so cool because, like, I coach a lot of teachers, and teachers are notorious for having to take on a lot of responsibility and not have a lot of say in what they're taking on, right? So they're constantly overworked. And, some of the things that I'll talk to teachers about is I'll say, when were you the most joyful? And, it all core, like, I've had quite a few that say, well, I was running regularly, or I was doing yoga, or I was like really regimented about my Pilates routine, or, I had this best friend that I spent a lot of time with. And you just get them to reflect on the fact that, like, some of those habits and those daily practices have fallen by the wayside. And maybe, just maybe, if you started to be, a little bit more disciplined about having that back in your life, it could help you feel better. So it's very interesting. I believe firmly we all hold the answers within ourselves. I'm not here to tell you what to do or prescribe anything. What I'm here to do as a coach is unlock the answers within you that you already have.
That's funny that you said that because we say the same thing in the academic field is that the goal of a teacher or professor is not to tell you how to think, but rather to unlock the knowledge that's already within you. And so I like how you connected that to coaching.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And to wrap things up, what is one thing that our listeners should take away from this conversation?
That you have more control over your life circumstances than you think. I think, the moment we start to think that we're at the effects of life and we don't have a say, that's when we lose our power. So recognize that what you focus on will expand. So shift your gaze to something that you know, that you're grateful for, that you appreciate. Spend less time talking about your problems and thinking about your problems, and more time thinking about your dreams and aspirations. Those are just little things. Where our attention goes, our energy will flow. So make sure that you're keeping a clean headspace, and that's going to help you ultimately start to move you in the right direction.
Thank you. I Truer words could not have been spoken. Thank you for sharing that. And again, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, Michelle.
You're so welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
That concludes this podcast episode. Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying our show, you can also visit our website, claimyourpotential.com, to access our blog, listen to previous and future episodes, leave a review, and subscribe to our newsletter. For more content, you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Claim Potential for inspiration, episode and blog post announcements, episode excerpts, along with other content for you to reach your full potential. A free way to support our show is by leaving it a rating and review on the podcast streaming platform of your choice. If you're not sure how to do this, you can head over to the Leave a Review page on our website for instructions. Thank you, everyone, and tune in next time where we'll continue to learn how you can claim your potential.